Let's talk a bunch of different topics.
How'd her career get there?
This is a podcast with Lauren Asghari.
All right, this is the Lauren Asghari podcast, How'd Her Career Get There? And my guest today is Shana Cosgrove. Welcome.
Thank you.
So Shana is the CEO of Nyla Technology Solutions and Vital Up Marketing. Several accomplishments here, but I'm just going to name a couple of them to get us started. So Nyla was named the Maryland SBA Woman-Owned Small Business of the Year, top 10 in tech for the Baltimore Business Journal, and a member of or named to the Inc. 5000 list. So quite a number of accomplishments there. Congratulations.
Thank you.
So let's jump right into it. Let's actually start with Nyla, and then we'll go back to you as a little girl. So give an overview. What does Nyla do?
Nyla is a software engineering, data science, and cybersecurity tool development services firm. So we have a lot of very, very smart people who specialize in working with very large IT systems, tons of data in the cloud, and making something that's valuable. Primarily, our number one customer today is the U.S. government. So we're also considered a GovCon firm. But as we continue to grow, we're really looking to expand into the commercial market as well and have a diverse supplier set. So we do have a Fortune 500 healthcare company today as one of our small contracts, and would like to see that grow in the future.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Now, you were a programmer prior to starting this. We're going to get into this much deeper.
Software engineer.
Thank you.
Yeah, we prefer the term software engineer.
Thank you. So let's go back to, give me some background information on you. Like, where'd you grow up? Siblings? What were you like as a little kid? Let's start there.
I was born and raised in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
Does that make you a Steelers fan?
No, that's a different story. We won't discuss.
This is Ravens country here.
I was born and raised in Pittsburgh. My parents moved there and then they had me. So my two siblings were not born there. I had two older sisters. My father was a mechanical engineer turned project manager who oversaw the construction of a lot of steel plants. So, as I guess mechanical engineers tend to often work in factories or related to factories. So he was an expert in steel plants. And I went to a normal high school. I had my two older sisters. My oldest sister majored in English and became a teacher, which she quickly abandoned. And my other sister studied healthcare administration, which she still does today. So the business side of it. And I just knew I kind of wanted out of Pennsylvania and Pittsburgh, and I was either going to major in English and voice or computer science. And my dad did this exercise with me that I think was so valuable, but he really went through because it was very clear we were cut off when we graduated. So they did pay for 4 years of public university and gave us some spending money too. So, that was really wonderful. But it was very, very clear that the second we graduated, we had to make it on our own. And I got a short-term bridge loan from my father that I had to pay back. But I really, really loved singing and dancing. And I would go to musical shows like Les Mis and hope that they'd call out to the audience, does anyone know the part for Fantine? But I never wanted that life. I was, regardless of money, even if it was pretty decent paying, I never was interested in a traveling job. I was never interested in a job that kind of wasn't very stable long-term. It just really didn't appeal to me. And then also the risk of never making kind of a living salary was unappealing to me. And the fact that I don't think I'm a great teacher or patient teacher. So the idea of being a teacher to other students, like children coming to my house for a living, sounded horrible.
For them.
But sitting at a computer all day in cute clothes seemed very appealing to me. And I was like, I can do that. And I actually knew this woman growing up who was a daughter of our neighbor, and she was older, and she became a programmer. She was an aerospace engineer, and she had 5 children, and she worked from home. And this was in 1992, right? So she worked from home in 1992, which was really unheard of. And I thought, computer science will be recession proof. So my sisters had both graduated in the recession, and it was a recession proof job. It's only going to get bigger. It was a really low risk major, though staying in the major is quite hard. But I could go to medical school. I could go be a lawyer. I could get a PhD. I could go into business. It seemed a very solid, low risk activity. And then anytime I considered dropping out of the major, because at the time I picked a school. No, I actually picked a school where the computer science program was in the engineering school. And the engineering school, most engineering schools, like goal in life is to fail out as many freshmen as possible. And I graduated not number 1 in my class, but I did work. It was good. I was pretty good. And then, everyone gets their butt handed to them in engineering school, or most everybody. And it's very, very humbling. So there were a couple times I thought I wanted to switch, but I would never. Then I would start crying because I couldn't switch out of computer science. So from there, I got a job with a defense contractor in Alexandria, Virginia, working on NavAir, on a central control panel of a helicopter. So I just really like solving problems. Mm-hmm. I guess I just really liked it. My gut was always telling me that this is what I wanted to do. I never wanted to another popular job from my college was going to be a consultant. One of those jobs where they fly you out on a Monday and they bring you back on Thursday night. And that seemed very unappealing to me. I was like, how do you have a dog? I'll be at the bar eating with coworkers, which I don't want to do either. So that's kind of how I ended up majoring in computer science. It never occurred, because I was like, well, I want to be married with 3 kids, not 5 kids, and work from home. That seems really appealing to me. And ironically, I never worked from home until last year. So I went 20 plus years of always going to a building, always.
And so when you were a little kid, so the youngest of 3, what were you like? Curious, stubborn, energetic, comedic? How would you describe yourself?
Very assertive. I think I have a lot of, because I'm younger than my 2 sisters, I think I have a lot of stereotypical traits of an only child and of the baby of the family. So very charming, engaging, incredibly bossy, extremely opinionated about how things need to be done. I never had problem. I never feared being in charge. To me, being in charge is very natural. Oh, of course, yeah, this needs to be done. Everyone, I'm going to rally you and tell you your assignments. My mom tells a story that we lived in Mexico when I was 5, and that when I came back, I would yell at the neighbor kids of what they needed to do in Spanish, and just always coming up with new schemes and different groups. So I don't think anyone's surprised by how I turned out. There's no oh, this shy girl is now. No, it's I was very always speaking in class, always talking nonstop, always really into class.
And on the singing thing, could you actually, you could actually sing? I'm not going to ask you to do it right now, but.
Yes. Yeah. It's probably my best. So I'm really into piano, but I'm not as good at piano as I'd like, but singing is a real natural talent for me. And then I joined this choir that was focused on opera. So I can't, instead of show tunes, I actually grew up singing operatically. And so, yes, I even did it in college. But I'm kind of burned out now, but sometimes when I'm alone, I'll sing opera.
I love that. I went to my first opera 3 years ago, and I loved it. I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Oh, really? I don't know that I've ever been.
Oh, really? I went to my first one, my first and only, and I thought it was fantastic. It exceeded my expectations for sure. I'm going to bounce around here because you said something that I thought was interesting that I want to just dive into a little bit, because I know that you're a mom of two, right?
Yes.
Two boys?
No, I have a 4-year-old daughter and an 8-year-old son.
Okay. So when your dad says to you after college, you're cut off, how old were you and how do you think that how did that end up mattering to you with the person or parent that you are today?
I think it has a huge impact on who I was or who I am today. I don't know. Yeah, and I think it's had a huge impact on me as a parent. I actually think I was highly motivated to get a job that could pay. So I never felt this freedom. Well, I had freedom to live at home. And we didn't grow up in one of these houses that had like the suburban basement apartment like these kids have today. And there was no cell phone. And my mom would pick up the phone when we were on it. And when I went off to college, like if you picked up the phone, then you broke up your internet connection. So moving home seemed like the worst thing I could ever imagine. So I was very highly motivated to take care of myself. My father did a lot where he never taught us, he never did things for us. He would sit next to us and ask us questions to help us learn how to do things for ourselves. So I grew up knowing how to do my laundry, knowing how to, he gave me a toolbox, a Sears Craftsman toolbox when I went off. And I really enjoyed this. When I interned, I made enough money because even then software engineering was very high paying compared to other bachelor degrees. And I took a lot of pleasure and pride in the fact that that whole internship summer, I was able to take care of myself, pay for my living, pay for my food, pay for a car. But I think he didn't really care what we did in life, but just that we were able to take care of ourselves. And so even today, with me having more resources available, I really make sure my children know how to clean their room, that they know how to cook. So I'm making my son cook because my husband's not a good enough cook. So I'm making sure that my son can actually grow up and learn how to cook for himself and read recipes and piece it together. So I have this high expectation. Now, I don't know that I'm going to fully cut my kid off. Like I'm hoping actually I'm able to be one of those dream parents that's like, oh, here's your down payment for a house, but there are those kids out there. But I do expect that I don't have this vision of like giving my children money on a repeated basis after graduation. I have a real sense like I've given you all these tools, I've invested in you, and you are expected to fly.
So what traits do you, from each of your parents, either your mom or your dad as individuals or together, what are traits that or things that they taught you that you remember or are important to you to this day?
That's a great question. My father had an expectation of if we were going to do anything, we had to do it well. So we couldn't half-ass it, as he loved to say. And as I told, he really had this expectation of us learning to take care of ourselves. So even when I would write a paper in college, I had to do a review of my work before he would look at it and give me any feedback. So I think I have and I think the engineering ability and the interest comes from him. My mother loved creating things and was extremely creative and artistic and interested in color and design. And I think one thing Nyla stands out for is not just our culture, but people talk about our branding and our marketing. And I think that a lot of that comes from her. I'm not as talented as an artist as my mother was. Like I'm weak in my hand and drawing, but I have I'm really good at design and have a very clear vision of what is like right and good, which applies to building products, software products as well. my mother really loved helping people, and she really wanted the best for everyone, which is one of the ethos I founded the company with, is that while employees are with Nyla, we want to really provide you with the best. We want you to help you realize your dreams, and help facilitate your professional growth, your personal growth. Like my mom would grab a waitress's hand and be like, you need to go to college. Or she would tell, this is an old era, but she would tell women like, and this is probably a reason I started the business as well, but she would tell women like, you need to have runaway money. Like make sure you have runaway money, because if you need to leave, like I want to be sure you can leave. She would just tell people that. So I think that sense of being able to take care of myself and money, and probably overly self-sufficient for like a happy marriage. Like I'm good for marriage, but like I'm really independent.
Right.
It's so important to me.
So let's jump back forward to, so you go to college, software engineering, you decide is where you want to go in life. You graduate, you get a job. Take us through that job, how you move to the next one, and what ultimately prompted you to start a business.
So at my first job, which I loved, it was a company called DCS Corporation, still exists today. It was a great work where it was a really nice people, and the work was very interesting. We were working on the electronics for a helicopter. But this was in 1998, 1999, when the web was exploding. I feel so historical, but the web was just coming out. This was Netscape, AOL was huge, and I thought, I'm going to be a dinosaur if I don't know the web. I went to a company. It was totally disgusting. Like there was dog pee, scribbles on the wall. And I wrote a horoscope app, and I thought that was like so stupid. And I ended up going back to a subcontractor to DCS. And I was working on testing the software that we had written. And they won an award for PKI, which is, if people don't know what PKI was, at the time, it was almost like a driver's license for the government. So they were rolling it out through the Department of Defense. The PKI was actually on a card, a credit, like it looked like a driver's license. So you got a card, so anytime you interacted with the government systems, they knew for a fact that it was you. Security, defensive work, defensive cyber or putting in a bunch of rules is not my thing. I ended up getting my master's in systems engineering. So I had I always knew that I wanted to start a business, and I was looking really strongly into an MBA, and I freaked out because I did all this work to get into an MBA program. I ran a volunteer organization for 3 years. I took every extra assignment at work, read every book, like anything I could do to make myself top tier MBA material. And then I freaked out during the application process because I was really scared of the debt. It was going to be like $200,000. I was leaving a solid paying job, a life I liked, to go to this unknown. And then again, the most popular paying jobs for MBAs was consulting work. Mm-hmm. And I just thought that sounded horrible. And I really looked at what does the future of engineering work look like? And it used to be MBAs, and it was really evolving into engineering management, or systems engineering, which is kind of engineering management like, can be. And so I got my master's in systems engineering at night. But I want to go back at my first job. I don't know why my first boss told me this. Never know why he told me this, but there was this old man sitting in this huge room who was like a vice president. I just saw him like a Mr. Burns from Simpsons. And he told me, my boss, who was a great guy, told me that man's bonus was bigger than my whole salary. And I thought, I'm going to be that person someday. Like, I don't know, somebody gets to be that person, and that person could be me. So that planted the seed.
Do you distinctly, I mean, obviously you do, you distinctly remember that? Like a moment?
Yeah. And for me, I don't know where I got the number, but somewhere in my head, I have this number of like, someone makes $300,000 a year.
Uh-huh.
That person could be me. Like, and I don't know how or when to get there. I had no clue. I didn't know people who made that type of money, but I knew, apparently I vaguely knew this man, right, who made that type of money. So I went off, and then I was getting so I was working on PKI, not very interesting to me. The whole company was based around PKI, and I was recruited by my professor to work at the Aerospace Corporation. And the Aerospace Corporation is like the Disney World of companies. Everyone is so pleasant. They're based in El Segundo, California, so they fly you to Manhattan Beach. Everyone worked there for years. I'm blanking on who was president at the time. She's a very influential woman. I mean, it was just amazing. You could work as a manager. You could go be technical. It was really dreamy, except the salary remained like this. It was very flat. So you were taken care of very well. You had a great life. But I was young at the time. I mean, I was 30-ish, right? So I still had a huge rest of my career. So there was actually there were actually a lot of technical women there as well. And one of them said to me, like, Shana, it's not a sprint. You're treating this career like a sprint. And so culturally, I wasn't a great long-term fit. I had come up with a design, and there was a meeting with all these people just sitting around, and they couldn't understand why the Air Force's architecture wouldn't work with the Navy. And it was like super obvious to me. And at the time I could barely afford my house in Northern Virginia. So I'm like literally like watching every penny, because Northern Virginia, this was before the housing crash, right? So I had paid this insane price for a house, and could barely live because the house was so expensive. And I just thought, like, if I'm this young and leading such a significant change, I had no idea how you make money, right? Like, I just knew that other people in other jobs probably made more. And so I met a man who had started a business, and he had an amazing house in Georgetown. And I thought, and he was my age, and I thought, I want to be like him. And so he's like, come work for me. So at this point, it's like, I need to start a business, right? Like, he had a business. And so he's like, I'll teach you, or we'll start a business together.
What were the other, not to interrupt you, I want to sneak this question. What were the other drivers for you with that? Because it's not all money, right? Like,
right. Yeah. Right, well, because I mean, the thing I didn't know is like your income tanks.
Right, exactly.
The amount of work you do goes through the roof. I think
exactly.
Yeah, I didn't know that either. Like, I didn't on the outside, everything looks easy. Like, it's like when you watch Ducks Across a Lake. I had no idea that it's truly that ducks across the lake, the iceberg image of like, everyone only sees the top. So I had no idea that I was only seeing that, right? Like, I wasn't tapped into this network. I didn't know people. So to me, it was like sunshine and roses. I just really had this fundamental belief that I could create something that better served employees and better served the government. I really loved working on government projects. Really, truly, I took great passion in it. I was very motivated by it. And I just really had this belief too that I could create a company that was much better for the employees, and to do that matchup. So you know how, like, I'm not a marathon runner, but people see a marathon and they think like, I should run a marathon. I don't think that, but I did think someone out there starts a company. So eventually it turned into, I want to have my own company. So for a long time, I was looking to just, again, I didn't even know to start a business, but I knew that I wanted to be a vice president.
Mm-hmm.
And then I worked for enough businesses and thought, no, I don't want to work for this person. I don't want to work for this business. I'm not inspired. And I want it to be my own thing. So there was an evolution of almost like dating. This isn't right. Like, this is close and this has positives, but this isn't right. And the only way to do it was to start my own.
And so you went, and I don't want to take you off from where you were, the story that you were telling, but I did want to sneak that question in. So then you went to work for this gentleman and to learn some things. Take me from, I'm assuming he was a gentleman. I don't know. I'll use that word, but take me.
I'll leave that term.
Take us from, So take us from working with him to starting Nyla.
So I left him and went to, again, I was always motivated by the type of work. So I had this essentially for 10 years, like, I know I want to start a business. I had no idea what to do. I don't know people. And I took a job at a really random, like, teeny tiny baby company. So, and that guy, as a lot of entrepreneurs do, struggled with having a family, balancing the workload. It's really common in government contracting that you work on contract when you first start your business because you need revenue, you need money. And so he ran an okay, business, and it gave me enough. It was so little structure provided by him that I had no fear left. So it was really like, if he can do it, I can do it. Or if all these other people have done it, I can do it. Even to the point where, like, I went to so my college asked me a couple times. My college was focused on being way before recent things, DEI focused, and they brought me back to be a speaker. And afterwards, a man came up to me and he's like, I should hire you. And I said, well, what's the name of your company? And he said, DCS. And I said, I work for you. But it bothered me that, like, I had never known the story, like the company, right? And so it was just this whole series of, I really think I can do it better. I'm just so confident. I had no idea how hard it was. And I was newly married when I finally started it. So I met my husband at work and was like, nice to meet you. I'm starting a business. And it took a few years, but I did. That's what I did. I was just like, nice to meet you. I'm starting a business.
And you started it, were you, since you're a software engineer by trade, did you start out billing yourself? Yes.
Yeah. In fact, I finally got a contract for the first time last year. And right now we actually have work that is so interesting to me and I would be so good at it. I really kind of want to go back on, but it's actually common. Like, there are my competitors, a lot of them work on contract still, and they let essentially someone else run the business. So they grow. They're not as interested in growing super big or fast. But yeah, you love the work. It's like the baker who opens, it's hard to get them out of the kitchen. Mm-hmm. So I'm pretty split between the business, but my customer was like, you're kidding yourself. Like, you can't work on contract again. But I'm like, but I could do it. I love it. Like, I love going in the meetings, designing it. So yeah.
And what is the thing? Well, actually, I want to back up. What was it like, or what's your perception now of what it's like for, I'll say it, women in college or women getting into software engineering, or an interest in getting into software engineering? What advice do you have for those women who maybe look around a classroom and see a ratio of more men in the field? I don't think that's any secret.
I didn't struggle with the men versus women. What I struggled with is two major things. And I think I went to UVA. That I feel like they're addressing it. One is a lot of the other kids I came in with were very advanced with software engineering, computers than I was. So they were just really had done it before, had seen it before. And I felt like a hick. Like I just was like from a farm town. I didn't know what software was. I don't even know if like a pre-class would have, maybe that would have helped me. Another major thing I had is the stereotype. So a lot of the same people, it's their entire life. Like that is all they do. And so there's this perception or voice where you tell yourself of, if it's not my whole life, like when I was done with my work, I liked to write poems or go play piano, and other people play computer game, like they're just wedded to it. But just because it's not what you like to do 24/7 doesn't mean that it's not for you. So I think that women tell themselves these things and self-select out. And for me, it was very hard too, because I have this, I don't know, sorority girl like personality. And there I am. And I'm like I remember it was me. Let's say we were 60 kids in my major, and it was me and one guy. We were the only fraternity sorority people in that major. And there were other engineering majors that were less like that and actually had more people like, so it wasn't a gendered thing, but it was, but the other thing that I found, which is kind of evolving now, but the other girls at college, we weren't like a group. Like they weren't my friends. We were each had our own guy group.
Mm-hmm.
So we never bonded. I only know like one person's name from that. Like I don't even know the other 4 girls' names. Like I would have to go like Google it. I remember vaguely what they looked like, but it was just, it was lonely. It was, and then you're dealing as a woman with, well, the guys that you're in a group with, now they want to date you. Mm-hmm. So that was a major issue for a long time. I'm the only software engineer, and it's like a dude group. So I think it's just tenacity. Like I really, in my gut, never wanted to leave. I never wanted to do something else. I never wanted to do sales, despite people trying to push me into those roles. I just never wanted to do it. And it takes a lot of strength, and I wouldn't say it's been easy. And then you found like, just because it's a woman doesn't mean she's your ally, right? Mm-hmm. And just because it's a man doesn't mean he's not your ally. So I've had a lot of positive and negative experiences both ways. Like I've had a lot of friends in unlikely places. So, there's been a woman who looks just like me and we're like repellent, or it's been a great mentor, or, a random man ends up being like one of my closest guy friends right now is, a guy, I think he was working on his college degree, and he's like in business development, and he's taught me so much. And I just had this expectation that all the other female business owners would be like my best friends. And so I think it's hard to stick with what you want if you're not seeing other people like that. And for me, it's even when I worked for aerospace, which is amazing, I felt weird because I was the only person who really wanted to build product and be, everyone else was so happy, and I couldn't figure out why I wasn't happy with this life. And I think it's hard to deviate from the norm. Mm-hmm. I think it's really hard to be different. And I think, I didn't grow up in like a time of major social media. So now I think people have a lot more access to see these different stories and really follow and understand. But I think I've always dealt with like, I'm too dumb to quit, like I don't know why. And maybe I could have made more money in sales, but like you said, it's not all about the money. It's this passion for doing it. So even if people tried to push me out, I just kept sticking around and saying like, well, this is what I like to do.
What's the part about entrepreneurship that people, let me think how to ask this. What would you either tell yourself, like if you could get in a time machine and go back and tell yourself about starting a business as like, well, do this one thing differently than what you did, or or the thing that people maybe don't fully understand about it?
Well, I think I know that the first one's really easy. I had no idea how incredibly hard it was. I had no idea. I had a big sense that it might change me, but it's weird changing that much too, and it's painful changing. But I really do need to create this infographic. But the amount of work you do goes through the roof. The amount of money you make actually goes down. Your stability with money. So eventually everyone wants to work less and make a lot more money. But most people can't cross that, don't have the tenacity to get to that point. And it really takes a huge amount of perseverance to pick yourself up and to keep going, to keep doing the work, to get kicked in the teeth, and just try again. So maybe my tenacity and not leaving computer science is paying off for the business. Because same thing, I think now I'm a bad employee. Like I'm not a good, like the only way I'm a good employee is when I'm left alone and get to do whatever I want. So those are my best working relationships. And yeah, so I think people don't say how hard it is. And that it's much easier that it really is, even if you start a side gig and it's a huge amount of work for a really long time. Mm-hmm. Like my business partner for the marketing company, he started a blog and it's profitable, but it took like 18 months of working on it steadily and building something before it even pays off. And honestly, that's a hard thing to do, to constantly it'd be like dieting all the time and believing that in 6 months you might actually lose 5 pounds, mm-hmm. right? And it's really hard to do. So I think I wish I knew that it would be that hard. I don't know that it would have stopped me, but it's the same with when older parents laugh at new, expectant parents. Uh-huh. It's very they think it's going to be easy for them. And you're like, oh yeah. And you wouldn't tell somebody not to have kids, right? Mm-hmm. But also that it's the best and the worst. I think, one of the things that was challenging is I didn't know what good vendors are, what software products to use. And that takes a lot of time too. Like even just learning who, your accountant, is this accountant actually good or not? Right. Setting up those things. Like now I know who to work with. I know that whole network. I don't know, except to say prepare to work constantly. Mm-hmm. It's really like having a child. It's very close to having a child where it is yours. No matter, even if you try to pass it off to somebody else, it's still yours.
Yeah, that's the thing that I find actually the most thrilling, and also just the most lonely is definitely the wrong word, but I just look at it as running or owning a business. Like everything's my fault, right? The good, the bad, whatever it is. If you're at the top of the pyramid, it's all your fault, no matter who ends up doing it. And I think that's something that as a business owner, you don't necessarily, I didn't at least fully realize jumping into it. When it's just you or you and 1 or 2 or 3 other people, it's different. But as you continue to expand and you're removed from the rest of your employees at some level, right? You're not as involved in the day-to-day. It's still ultimately your fault because it's your direction, or you're putting the people on the seats that are making the decisions, right? Whatever it is. So
I think that's why I was excited when my husband finally joined full time. So he had been involved in running payroll. No, he never ran payroll. I take that back. He would deal with the accountant, right? Because it's an S corp, so it flows through our money. Mm-hmm. I'm trying to think what else he did, but he essentially took the leap from taking care of some stuff in the back office, occasionally on a weekend, to full-time working on contract. And it's nice. I think I've always liked working with my husband because he knows the people, he knows the stories. So it's a shorthand. We can relate. But yeah, I found that it was very lonely. and I have Amanda, who's my chief experience officer. I really liked when she joined because she cared as much about growing it, just her nature, really passionate about it. And so that was great to have someone in partnership with me to help us really see this vision come to life. And so, yeah, I think it was lonely. And you talk about being different. It's like, yeah, you're even now more different.
Right. Well, and I know this from just seeing what Nyla does in the marketplace, the accolades that you guys have gotten, and you as a leader, that the experience that people have when they engage with you or your company, like, matters. And to me too, right, with my business, but it matters. It really matters to you. And so that's important to carry on, right? You did a good segue for me when you were talking about your husband. Talk a little bit about what it's like working with your husband and family integration, being a mom, being a wife, running a business. Has that been challenging for you? Have you adapted? Like, talk a little bit.
It's been so easy. I mean, it's just easy breezy.
Said no one, never.
I got the paperwork back from the state the day before my son's first birthday. And then I was, I think I took a year off maybe, and then we tried again and we lost 2 babies in a row. And then finally had my daughter, and I was probably I probably had deep depression because I was so concerned about my daughter even being born. So we lived through all of that through the creation of the business and my intensity overstanding that. And he once we got in a fight because he felt like he was Mr. Mom, because he had a very stable, guaranteed income, and plus he was taking on assignments that he felt would really pay off for the future of the company. So he took some really critical cyber jobs that really gave him insight and relationships that when he made the transition to the company would pay off. But anytime the kid was sick, he took off. And he was really heavily involved in my son when he was so little because I was literally working like nonstop. And making these phone calls. And I remember interviewing when I was very pregnant, and then I had to go to doctor's appointments, and, I couldn't really afford to leave, right? And my job was much higher risk, and my performance, like, it was good and bad that they treated me like, I remember I took one of the first jobs, like I came back to work after my pregnancy, and it's like, I couldn't pump because I was a consultant and I needed to be available at these, and I didn't have the luxury of being like, well, it's my time to pump, so I'm just going to go leave. And my business was so new. So he really took the brunt of that. We did do like daycare that was open for 6:30 a.m. to 6:30 p.m. So we were the people swinging in at like 6:29 and picking up our son. We paid for a lot of babysitting to help with that. And we paid for help around the house, I think, sooner. I don't really care if people like judge me on that because it's just, something's got to give. So if I would rather spend the time with my child than, do the additional load of laundry or make sure his room looks perfect. So I think we've had some of that. Now, my husband and I have probably similar opinions and very different styles. He is he likes to talk. He likes to talk with people. He loves like a happy hour. I hate happy hour. This is story is told, I hate happy hours. I hate like happy hour apps. He doesn't like read, like I read an insane amount and I read really fast. So I have no unread emails. I've never had unread emails. I literally have read every email. He never has read emails. And I have issues with having been a woman trying to go up the ladder and being diminished. So so he needs me to tell him, like, instead of reading that I gave him this work or I gave him an email, he wants me to get on the phone and tell him. And I felt, I'm not your secretary. Like, how dare you make? So we've had to come to terms with it. I'm moving fast and don't always tell him things, which hurt his feelings in the beginning because we had to really divide and conquer. Right, our time was so limited. So we're a feisty couple, and a lot of our fights too are like, who has the more important meeting today? And like, well, I'm meeting with this client. And so that's where having like consistent childcare, like, all right, well, we have pickup, someone literally picking up and then making sure our son is fed, because even if we're walking in the door, like we're starving ourselves. So it's ironically, during COVID, this has been like the best our relationship has ever been. I don't know if it's just time. We finally figured each other out.
Yeah.
The company's in a groove. We have people who do things instead of us having to do every single thing. So I love it. Like he is, it's not like super smooth and dreamy, but he's really good at work. He's a huge part of the company. I knew it was hugely flattering when he decided to join our company, because anybody would have wanted him as one of their founders, as one of their partners. And he is very comfortable saying, like, you're a great CEO. Shana's the CEO. And I've also brought in external like coaches, because sometimes him saying or giving me feedback is emotionally charged, right? And so I think it's good to have an external person kind of walk us through the business things that we need to fix. So I put in place a leadership development, because it's like we're too enmeshed to have some of these conversations without a third party, and really, where do we want to grow?
Gotcha. And what, so Nyla is your primary business. You also have Vital Up Marketing, and it seems like you just are involved in a lot of things. And like, you've always got your creative hat on and thinking of things. What other types of projects are you involved in, and where do you get the energy and the time to do all that?
I have always done an extreme amount of stuff. Like I read fast, I work fast, which is why I was arrogant when I started the business, that it would be easier for me than other people because I work so fast, because I have no unread emails, blah, blah, blah. Like it's just going to be so easy. But I wake up and I start working and craft. So I'm efficient, I'm fast. And I like doing, like, I don't know what to do with myself. So I like, when I would just work and I didn't have to work all night long, I would like come home and bake some new things. So I was always bringing in like these elaborate baked goods into the office. And I used to teach aerobics, and I didn't know what to do with my time. So this is like the first time I've ever like kind of just worked. But I'm I'm on 2 nonprofit boards that I'm like very proud of. One is Downtown Baltimore Family Alliance, and that's focused on being an ally for families that are people who are raising their families in Baltimore City, and increasing, being a representative of that and advocate for that. And the other is the Fort Meade Alliance, which is focused on the Fort Meade community, both the military, government, everything surrounding that, a lot of education for STEM. So that's been a blessing to do that. But yeah, my one friend told me that I need a lot of friends because I talk, I do so much. I'm exhausting. And my husband's similar. So we're exhausting to most people.
And I want to touch quickly on Vital Up. What prompted you to start a side marketing business?
So Nyla is a hub zone company, and hub zone is a historically underutilized business zone. The criteria to be a certified hub zone business is that you're primary office, which is the office with the most number of people, has to be located in a hub zone. And then 35% of your employees have to live in a hub zone. And a lot of people start with overhead staff being hub zone employees. And then and that was easy when we were like 10 people, maybe 15 people. But at some point, I wanted to identify a way that all the hub zone people, if they weren't able to work on contract, which isn't as common, that they weren't all costing me. How could I make money? What business line would I have doing that? And at the same time, I was recruiting for Nyla is incredibly hard. We're in this extremely niche market. There's not a lot of new people, so you're stealing talent. And my good friend gave me a lecture about marketing and really understanding your audience and then content level marketing. And so I partnered with my business partner for Vital Up. He had started a blog and he was doing like a side hustle to basically eventually someday not have to be a mechanical engineer. And I wrote him this email and was like, guess what? I really think we should start a business. And we started it by running clients through Nyla, but it was really awkward. It was awkward because the branding was different. What we did was so different. Nyla is a government contractor, Vital Up. Like our first client was a tutoring business, Maryland Teacher Tutors, if you ever need a tutor. And it was just weird and it was awkward. And it was also unfair to him because I was bringing the fish in and he was like taking care of it. And it wasn't equitable for him as well. So we started a 50-50 LLC, Vital Up. And it's exciting to see it grow. It's a lot easier because it's my second business. So I already know products, tools, pain points. I already have hired people, fired people. And it's not as anxious for me because it's not my primary income, right? It's like much more pleasurable. Also, Nyla and government contracting, it's like winning a whale. It takes so long. The business cycle is so slow. And then when you win, you like eat for years, right? And in marketing, it's so much faster, right? I can have a conversation with you and get started for you on Monday, but then you can fire me like the next minute too. So it uses a different part of my brain. And we've actually gotten several government contracting clients because we know business to government very well. So it's exciting and fun. I don't know that sometimes I want to quit that too. I think the other thing is, but back to what you said, advice before I started, there have been times where I legit wanted to quit, called a friend and was like, do you want to buy this?
Mm-hmm. Unpack that a little bit. Why?
I struggle with depression. And so sometimes it's really hard, and you add your head is stuck in a negative loop. So even that was a time where I was like, I think I need help because I could logically know that everything was fine from a business perspective and that I shouldn't sell it. But I was just like, F this, I want out. Plus it's like the middle of winter when everything's bleak and depressing and you're not on some vacation paid for by the company. So but some days are crap and hard and it feels like it won't be better tomorrow. And I think I'm learning, even though logically everyone knows this, there's going to be bad and good. I'm really understanding and I've lived it enough to know there's going to be bad months, and there's going to be good seasons. And it's really just living through the mean, not living up to the max, right? Until there becomes a new average. And so my second business is doing well. But there are hard times. And it when you find the best employees, a huge emotional difference maker and pleasure. Like, it is so great to work with great people. And not separating the people from their personality, like great at their job, right? Which makes me like them personally, but like it's like night and day. When you have someone and you can't trust their work and you have to do all this follow-up and then it's really disappointing and it's bad for the client, it's really upsetting. And then you bring someone on and you don't have to explain yourself 7 times and you don't have to like do a training session over and over again. It's just easy. So I think that is the big difference maker for me, is when the right people lock in and you can feel it. Mm-hmm. And those are hard, just like finding the person you want to be with for your life. It's like, it's hard to find that, but it's really amazing when it happens. And then you get to live like through that. So I actually didn't know my business partner for Vital Up like really well. You know, he lives in another city. I think I don't even know if I ever saw him in person. But I was just like, it was just a very easy working relationship. And I had a high degree of trust in him. And so it was just like, yeah, let's start a business.
Mm-hmm. I have 2 more questions for you. What was a glaring, well, I won't say glaring, and this could be something very small or something big, at any point in your career that you either like a misstep, right? Like you walked out of a meeting, you're like, oh God, I can't believe I said that, or you blew it with a customer, or you messed up with an employee. Like what's the biggest or smallest misstep that you could think of?
God, I think
with the caveat, I feel the need to say this, that like there are no mistakes because we always learn something from our mistakes. I got that part, but given
I think it was a larger life lesson for me, is finding a place where I'm a good fit. So I have always been quick to speak up, outspoken. So I think in general, I didn't know when to shut up enough. And it is what people like about me, and it is what people hate about me. And it's a major struggle because either I'm a bad teammate, right? Because I end up taking charge, right? Like I'm like, why can't they see what needs to be done? You know, like, why can't they see what needs to be done? It's so clear. And then you can't you're not a good teammate because you can't let that person lead because they're not like. So I think I've just really struggled with understanding who I am and what environment really works best for me. And I don't know if I could have, I don't know if a personality test sooner would have shown that. And it was hard being a software engineer who wanted leadership, because a lot of times as a software engineer, so I ended up getting my master's in systems engineering, which is a better fit, but I really always wanted the computer science. So I'm really a software systems engineer. So very specific focus. And that is an excellent, excellent fit for me. But because software engineering is so revered and is so at the highest scale, I had a really hard time owning that I'm really an excellent systems engineer. I'm not a great software engineer, but I'm the best systems engineer. But even until 6 months ago, I had a hard time saying that, because software engineering is the end all be all, but it was a horrible personality fit for me, because you're often just assigned work and you don't get to kind of own it or tell people what to do. And it didn't use all of my skills. And I knew that, I felt like I was atrophying. And I think the other thing, I like to do, I'm happiest working a variety of things. I love reading and I love math, and I'm not happy just reading, and I'm not happy just doing math. And I think owning that I'm a superb generalist in a world where specialists are praised was really hard. Mm-hmm. I don't know why that sounds so weird. It maybe you're like, I can't even believe she's telling the story. But to me, I was in a world of specialists, engineers, you go so deep and you're paid for going so deep. And I'm just not, I I always knew like I'm so strong verbally and communications. And that is one of my major talents is the overlap of understanding the software at that same level, but communicating and bringing people together and creating that vision because sometimes
that's a unique skill. That's a unique skill set.
Yeah, but it wasn't always praised in that. Like, so if you ask about, right, like a lot of times I've had clients not like me either because it's their place to shine. And I'm like, but this is what needs to be done. So
have you over time adapted?
No.
Or do people adapt? Do you adapt or do people adapt to you?
No, I think I finally got myself in a job that's I think I'm not great with like B gamers, right? Like I'm great with A gamers and I'm not good with people who aren't at that level. So A gamers typically love me. Executives loved me. People who are really hard charging, driven, they're my people. But that's not always who your client makeup is. So you're making them uncomfortable.
Was it, I think it was Steve Jobs maybe that said a handful of A players can run like laps around B and C players?
Right.
So, yeah.
So I think, and then just, I talk too much and should listen more. It's a family trait. My husband's the same. Or I've been told, like, I guess good advice I got was just because I know the answer doesn't mean I should say the answer. So I finally got better at like whispering it, but I mean, whispering it after the meeting. But I think that, I always envisioned that being a CEO would be a really good fit for me. Like I never thought, oh, I don't think I could do that. I just always, and that's a weird thing for a college graduate to be like, I think I'd be a great CEO. Mm-hmm. But I just really always thought like, I'd be a great executive. Like I really just totally comfortable with that. I love the numbers. I understand the business. I don't mind the variety. I don't mind the intensity. So it was just this bet on myself. And I don't think like going back, like computer science was one of the best things I ever did because it still was so foundational. But I wish I understood that I would have this evolution. So I don't regret like my story because there's a reason I never worked at these big companies. And I think I'm finally happy because this is like my truth. I'm meant to be in this role, even when it's not easy, mm-hmm. right? Like, is it easy working with my husband and having kids? No. Is this what I always kind of thought would make me happy? Yes. And it is. Like, I love being a mom and I love running the company and I love having a second company. I'll probably have another one. So I think the one thing that's made me uncomfortable is I've never sought fame. And people sort of see me, especially social media is so, and I'm not fake on social media, but people's perception to me is not what my head is like or what it feels like. And people want to hear my story because I'm, software engineer who started her own business and it's doing well. And so I'm starting to get comfortable with fame, notoriety, right? Like everyone knows who Shana is, and that's weird to me. But
is that an uncomfortable spot for you? Like natural to who you are?
I don't seek fame. Like I've just never sought it. It's not. I don't like dressing up. I like dressing up sometimes. I don't want to see myself on video all the time. I want to do the work. I like the creative. I like creating things and seeing it come to life. So what's happiest to me is like creating a whole bunch of products. Like that's where I'm happy. But I think I just did a exercise for myself of what does success look like for me? Like what is real success?
You're literally going to my next question. No. Like I can't show you my paper because it has all types of messy notes on it, but I'm going to point to it. Define success. There it is.
So I did that exercise just recently. And number one, I think in general, and what is really important to me is a long, happy marriage. So, how am I doing as a wife? How are we doing as a couple? And growing together. I don't think like marriage equals success, but for me with my husband, I really want to see us last. Being a mother and being a good mother, and I hope my kids like me someday, and that they like me around like that. Seeing my kids self-sufficient when they grow up is so important to me. And like I wanted to have professional success because I like creating. So I wanted to know that I'm good at that. And it actually calmed me down because it's like, well, you did achieve a level of professional success. So like you need to chill the F out and like just calm down. And it's a marathon, not a sprint. But one of the things that called out to me, so I've always been focused on volunteering and giving back and really want to help have an impact. And I was thinking about how much knowing my neighbor's daughter and vaguely like, she'd never mentored me. I never interviewed her. I just knew her story. I what an impact that had on me, right? Like seeing and hearing that. And so
which is what, like, give me the cliff notes of the story.
Oh, just that she worked from home and had 5 kids.
Oh, gotcha. That one. Okay.
Yeah, she was a developer who worked from home and had 5 kids. And I didn't like chill with her all the time. I just knew of her, right? And that influenced me to go study computer science because I thought that seems like a great life. That seems really cool. And so if just hearing my story or some snippet of it like influences other women to stick it out in computer science or to understand that it's uncomfortable or to get better at money. I want women to make more money, just sort of like not so they can run away, but I want women to be much stronger about making money and taking care of themselves. And so I feel like I kind of need to step up and take ownership of the fact that people want to see that. And that is who I am, whether I like it or not. So part of when people look at me and on my life, or even how I look on my life, it's not how much money I had in my bank account, what kind of car or houses I had, if, more than one house. It's, did I positively impact their lives? Right?
I literally am like, my heart's about to pop out of my chest because I believe so much, like it's one of my cores about the ripple effect. Like I'm just naming it that, right? But the ripple effect of like your neighbor had on you. And that we have that on people all the time, strangers, people we don't know. But if you think back to like when you were like you or anybody when they're kids, it's like, remember like that one teacher said something to you that like flipped the switch, right? It's like, you never know how the smallest thing, like I get emails about this podcast of people that listen to it or, have heard other guests say things and say, wow, like that had a profound effect on me. So I love what you're saying because I believe it like to my core.
Yeah. So I feel like even if I don't want to really do it or if I get uncomfortable, I have had people reach out to me on LinkedIn because that's kind of where I'm the most popular from a social media perspective. And, it's been so great watching you. And that's never been my goal. My goal is really like to grow my business, but but it's exciting to think that I could be influencing others in that way. And then I think also the exciting thing about business and even especially the internships and having interns is really helping change their lives and giving them this opportunity, or especially when we take someone who might not be an exact fit or we're giving someone a chance. So I like that aspect of it. And then my real major motivator is like building a series of things that provide real solutions, we're focused on the government, but that we're building things that are very impactful, not just like selling things for selling's sake. So like our clients who are my marketing clients, it's exciting to watch those businesses grow, right? Because I believe in those businesses. I'm not working for like, we'll do anything for a buck. So it's exciting to like really support. We tend to have a lot of women-owned businesses as our clients. And it's really exciting to see them grow and save them time. Like we're experts in automation, right? Like, so a lot of it is people pay a lot for tools and they don't know how to use them. And so we really will wire things up for people so they don't have to worry about it.
I love that.
Because getting time back is so critical.
Yeah, it's a commodity that we all have a finite amount of.
Yeah.
What else? I'm going to go into rapid fire questions, totally unrelated to what we've talked about so far. But before I get to that, what else do you want to cover or talk about that we haven't talked about yet?
I think every young girl out there should study computer science and trust your gut. I think sometimes people want to override their gut. And so I think that was the biggest thing I ever learned in my life was to listen to my gut.
Love that. All right, let's go in rapid fire, unrelated to what we've talked about. First thing that comes to mind. Okay. All right. I don't know, maybe 6 or 7. Netflix or cable?
Oh God, I love cable too. I guess I'm old. Cable. I love cable.
I think
it's like HBO. It's like, it's just, you have to have your HBO.
In all of these episodes, you're the second person I think to say cable. But
old. I was like all the Sunday night. I grew up with it. The Friends and the ER on Thursday night in college.
You're staying true to the trend of like being different. There you go. Cable. All right. So Netflix or cable? You're going with cable. Sun or moon?
Sun for sure. Yeah.
Astronaut or deep sea diver?
Astronaut.
Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Sing or dance?
I really love dancing. Dancing.
Microsoft or Apple?
Oh God, Apple all the way.
Last one. Audiobook or a written book?
Oh, written for sure. Yeah. I can't even actually get through audiobooks. I really, really struggle. I love podcasts when they are dialogues. I cannot do a book. I can barely finish a book.
I'm the same. I listen to podcasts all the time and I read a decent amount. I've never actually listened to a full book on tape.
Painful.
Ever. I've never even tried.
My husband plows through audio. He's so auditory.
I've never even tried, so I shouldn't say I can't do it, but I've never tried an audiobook. All right. This is anything else? Parting shots before I sign us off?
Go to my website, shanacosgrove.com. If you want to connect, I'm also very active on LinkedIn. If you want to connect with me there, Shana Cosgrove. And if anyone out there can help me raise money for my app, Offers Aplenty, which we have underway with our 2 interns, I would love with you to connect with me and give me advice on how to grow a commercial product.
So everybody listening to this, connect with Shana. She's got a ton of good stuff going on, and she just gave you multiple ways to do it. So thank you for being a guest on this. This was fantastic. Really fun.
Thank you. Thanks.
This is the Lauren Asghari podcast, How'd Her Career Get There? And we'll see you next time.